Hey guys, it's Dawn here from my little corner of the world. I'm going to do a tag today, as you could probably tell by the title, just to help us get to know each other as I start this channel back up talking about books. I saw this tag from Olive, a book Olive. I was not tagged, I'm just tagging myself. And it is the reader problems tag. I'm looking down at my phone. Number one, you have 20,000 books on your TBR. How in the world do you decide what to read next? Luckily, I don't have 20,000. I try to keep it at like 350, 400. I do a lot of like adding and putting on a maybe shelf, and then if it sits there too long, I periodically check that maybe shelf, and if I still haven't gotten to it or have lost interest, then I just delete it. I'm a mood reader, so I just kind of go by what I'm in the mood for to read. Yeah, just whatever I really want to read next. Number two, you're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? I did answer this in a previous video. When I was probably 10 years ago, when I was younger, I would always finish a book that I started. There was some compulsion that I couldn't stop reading if I started. As I've gotten older and I have less reading time, I just don't do it. I give nonfiction about 50 to 70 pages before I decide if I'm going to keep reading it or not. Well, I should say if I'm not going to read it anymore. And then for fiction, I usually give it between like 30 and 50, depending on chapter sizes and like how much info I'm getting. And I will not finish a book that I don't want to. It's kind of controversial. Some people feel strongly one way or the other. Number three, the end of the year is coming, excuse me, and you're so close, but so far away on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try to catch up, and how? I'm usually pretty good on my challenge because I look at it constantly. But let's just say I wasn't close. I would start listening to audiobooks more. I wouldn't cheat and pick small books, but I may not pick like the biggest nonfiction book I can find. Number four, the covers of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I don't read a lot of series, so it doesn't really bother me. And the one series that I have read, Outlander, I just bought in a matching set, and I just need one more to complete that. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Number five, everyone and their mother loves a book you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? Typically, I don't read books that are really hyped or contemporary fiction that can get really hyped. So I don't have to really, I just keep it to myself. No reason to bring anybody down if I don't like it. If they ask my opinion, I might tell them like, no, I didn't really like it. I'm also part of like 2 book clubs and hopefully starting a third if I can get the times to work, where I feel like we can be totally honest. And even if everybody loved it, I could say I didn't like it and they would be accepting of that. Number 6, you're reading a book and you are about to start crying in public. What do? Cry. It doesn't really bother me. I'm not like super self-conscious in that way if I'm enjoying the book and I'm in a waiting room or something. I mean, I may like, not many books can make me like cry. There might be books that like make me tear up, and I would just deal with it. Number 7, a sequel of a book you loved just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you reread the book, skip the sequel, try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, cry in frustration? These are Olive's things. That's a tough one. If it's not a big book, I might reread it. And if it's one I really, 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 really love the first one. However, like I said before, I don't read a lot of sequels. So it's not really a problem for me. I would probably skim it. And try to find a synopsis online. 8. You do not want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people no when they ask? It would depend on which book it was. If it was like one of my all-time favorites, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I just can't let that out. I would redirect them to their local library and tell them to check it out. Most of my books are library books though, so it's really easy just to say, oh, sorry, it's a library book, I can't let you have it. They seem to be okay with that. Reading ADD. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? This does happen from time to time. I will say during this whole time of the coronavirus, I have gone through ups and downs in my reading where I read constantly because it's like an escape, obviously. It doesn't let my mind think of all the crazy stuff that's out there. But then there's been times where I'm too stressed and I don't have the mental capacity to like concentrate on a book, and I notice I'm like rereading and rereading the same page. I have done the pick a book up, put a book down more during this whole since March basically than I have I think ever before, and I just let myself like go with it, and I tried to just find books I really wanted to read and I read them. 10. There are so many new books coming out that you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? As much as I like to support authors, I really do, I may only buy 1 or 2. The rest I put myself on hold at the library so that I'm first in line when they come out. 11. After you've bought the new books you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to them? I'm kind of weird maybe in that I let it sit there for a few days, a week, and kind of look at it before I crack it open. And it also just depends on what I have coming from my library and what the due dates are. But because I don't buy a lot of books, I don't have to worry about it that much. If it's a book I really want to read, I'll start reading it right away. I mean, it just depends on the book. But I wouldn't buy a book unless I really wanted to read it, if that makes sense. I did recently buy used copies of Ken Follett's The Century Trilogy, and those books are ginormous. There's obviously 3 of them, and they're like 800, 900, 1,000 pages. And it was something I've really been wanting to read. So I read the first one, but it was so big that I waited probably 3 weeks before I started the second one, and it took me a little bit to get through that one. The first one I finished in like a week. The second one took me a little bit longer, I think just because of what was going on in the world around me. And I have yet to start the third one because there's just so many other books right now that I'm interested in, but I know it's there waiting for me on my bookshelf, and I am looking forward to it, but it's not such a burning desire that I have to read it right now. So I hope you enjoyed. That's the end. So I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe. I have a lot of leftover subscribers from my makeup channel, and make sure to share, and please comment down below an answer to any of these questions. I would love to hear from you. I'm here to talk about books, and I would love it if you talked about books with me. Thanks.